Hello, everybody. Today we are going to get into the occult, CIA, Hollywood, and Golden Age shadow government and Mandevillian economics. If you've been following any of my slides, which started with the first slide, it was Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon, I believe, was the first. Then there was another one with Tucker Carlson and Dr. Richard Warner. But it was Dr. Richard Warner particularly. He was an economist. He worked in Japan. This would have been in the 80s. He was kind of the grandfather of quantitative easing. Which is, he even says, yeah, the economists have taken my quantitative easing ideas and gone all over the place with that. So, anyway, it's funny. The Chinese were very, very interested in his work, and so was the CIA. But the Chinese was, so what they can do about it? But the CIA was pissed off at what he was doing, and the American government. So anyway, that's something worth checking out. If you want to understand the economics, which I keep on explaining, it all comes back to that. Stable economies, then you can produce stable societies. Without stable economies, you really are in perpetual chaos. And that is precisely what governments, the central banks, the international development community. I mean, this gets into the deep state of the international community. And, there's crossover there with the national actors, because these people do reside. They do sleep and eat and live someplace like everybody else. Often they'll have, like Jeffrey Epstein. He had a place in London. He had a place in New York, another one in Palm Beach. And it's precisely these communities, if everybody turns a blind eye to what's going on, then anything goes. It's just like in a family. If the parents are out to lunch or out gallivanting around or too busy in receiving lines and putting on crowns like the royals, then the kids go wild. So, we're really getting into the occult with the Charlie Kirk case. So let's get into the slides. I'm getting better at this sharing stuff and remembering to turn on my, I still have some videos that need to be, I just don't have the technology to edit my videos and stick, I can chop from the front or the back, but not much else. So anyway, that's been okay. But I do what I can with my technology. I have no money. If anybody wants to, instead of criticizing me, send me a present and send me a computer that's, I won't say that works, because this is working, thank you, Lord, but something that's gonna give me better. Okay, so anyway, let's go into first. See, we're going to go into the royals. So right now with the Charlie Kirk assassination, the big question is what happened at Ferry, why were people at Ferry Lake, or TPUSA people, at Ferry Lake in Montana on October 7th. Now, I looked around there, and there was it's the Cargill family. Let's see. So that's Bozeman, Montana is close, so billionaires. So you're looking at Marianne Lieberman, that's Cargill family. So, and Austin Cargill, her brother, lives there. So her husband, that was kind of like, well, obviously her husband's um, Jewish. So I was like, I don't know. There's a website. I'm pretty sure it started by Ian Carroll, and I don't know who else, but it's tips. I said you guys should check on them, see what's going on around there. Dennis Washington. This guy, I don't really think so. I'm pretty sure he voted Democrat, so you can say, yeah, pretty well. That's you can eliminate that. This Brandon McBee, I can't remember. Dennis Washington as well. I thought the most likely person there, because at first I was like, does Tim Mellon live in Montana? Because I know he lives in the Central West, and Tim Mellon is on my radar. Should be on everybody's radar. Um, but yeah, I think that's Wyoming, his ranch where he lives. So that wouldn't have been. So we'll see if they look into anything. Um, so what's going on there, because there was Butch Hibbs was there, Brian Harple was there, this Rick Cutter was there. He's part of I think it was part of the security. So everybody was like, well, what was going on? What was there a meeting? 10/7, that's like a month after Charlie is killed. So what happened there? So I assume Candace is checking that out. There, I also told I think it's called Who Killed Charlie Kirk or something like that. They should look into Congressman Tim Sheehy, because he is, oops, there we go. So he's military, Navy SEAL, ding, 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 ding. I mean, it's not one of those pam pom fire engine moments, but it's a ding ding. So yeah, again, so he's from the Midwest, uh, you know, Navy SEAL. So, military. Okay, he's got a book published. See, this is the typical Emma. I mean, I can't for the life of me get my book published on the mommy wars. And I mean, there's various reasons. Um, I mean, part of it, the first reason is, as any of the women who have written on the subject of women on women aggression, um, and viciousness, start out their book saying, I was highly pressured not to write this book. This is the biggest taboo out there. So that's, one of the main reasons. Then the other is, of course, I'm anti-corruption. So nobody wants anti-corruption. Nobody wants to give that a voice. Yeah, so anyway, it's like typical MO. Also, J.D. Vance. I mean, they're putting him forward to be the next presidential candidate for the Republicans. I mean, this kid, he published a book. I mean, really, that's all he's done. I mean, we're just, it's like puppet, Charlie McCarthy, come on down. I remember we had a Charlie McCarthy doll. It had been my mother's doll, I think, when she was growing up. And gosh, I mean, it was pretty much an antique. It was kind of broken a little bit, but I think it had been her doll. Gosh, I'll tell you, people, everything that you want to support, to promote the lifestyle, the values, the morals, everything from A to Z. I mean, that's what my mom was about. So, and it is self-destructive for you and for everyone around you and for this planet. Literally, I mean, of course, my mom is not responsible in and of herself, but you multiply that mentality. I mean, it's Nancy Reagan, it's CZ Guest, it's Cornelia Guest, it's the Kardashians, it's it doesn't matter if it's those like little Queen Elizabeth II, these, prim and proper uh, uh, appearing women who turn a blind eye to really anything and everything. Well, as long as their tea party and their jubilees are going well, then who cares? Um, or those who participate in the gray areas or the really, really sadistic ones, which we're going to start getting into. Yeah, so anyway, of course, he in June 2023, as I say, how old is this kid? When was he born? Born. Okay, he's 40. Um, so he would run Republican, obviously he's a Trump loyalist. So yeah, gosh, yeah, okay. So he was involved in a plane crash. Oh, this wasn't his fault. It was the flight instructor. Poor guy. Oh, and his wife, she's a former Marine Corps officer, and their 4 children. Oh, yeah, I imagine living in that household is kind of like living in a military base. Yeah, see, I mean, yeah, my mother was a fascist Republican, but I mean, my father was a famous doctor. Um, and she was militant, but no, not, my father was live and let live. Oh, such a dear, sweet man. Precisely why I keep on. I'm like, oh, you guys, don't forget the women in there. And they're the ones who castrate the men and produce either these, poor men who are doped up or violent, angry men who are either pressure cookers who sit there in front of their TVs and play golf all weekend, and these frat boys, or the jihadist school shooters. I mean, young and old. This whole the kid, whoever. Okay, so the official story. Let's just put it into the official story of some extremist radical who killed Charlie Kirk for ideological. I mean, that's no different than a school shooting, than the DC sniper with Mildred Muhammad. Now, I really don't think that it was Tyler Robinson who pulled the trigger, but there is obviously that, even if that's not the reality, and it was, you have two things going on there at the same time, because, obviously you want some sort of story. They've done a pretty lousy job. It shows you even the incompetence of this country. We used to be very, when we were under the Puritan worth ethics and values and norms, we were one of the most competent, efficient, hardworking countries of the world. But under these values and norms, we're as incompetent as any third world country out there. And that's why the country's going to crap. And that's why we need to, as my dear father always said, we've been fighting these norms since Elizabeth I. And this goes back to the beginning of the Puritan movement and publication of admonitions to Parliament. It's also known as the Puritan Manifesto. That's 1571 by Thomas Wilcox. Obviously, I mean, I haven't been able to find in the family tree, but obviously of the same family. Even the Wilcoxes that you'll see of different, like instead of an X, you'll see CXS. Those are all, in many of these families, you'll see some variations of the family. But if you go back enough centuries, it's all the same. So anyway, you have him, 1571, and then there's another Thomas Wilcox, Clergy. This is the Puritan movement as well, which is a choice drop of honey from the rock Christ. And that's 1666. In fact, with the occult, in fact, I was like, 1666. So with the occult, like 33, 66, these are important numbers. I'm going to have to get into more. My older sister was really into numerology. Um, but I'm going to have to look into that. But I know those are in all of this numerology, and that gets into the occult. So that's also kind of, I was like, uh, what was it, Kash Patel, who pointed that out? I think it was Trigger Smart, but he said, yeah, we caught the perpetrator under 36 hours, exactly 33. And Trigger Smart was like, well, why would you say under 36 hours, exactly 33? And then he mentioned Valhalla. He said to Charlie Kirk, see you in Valhalla. So that kind of was a kind of ding, ding, ding. What's going on with Kash Patel? Could that? Then Baron Coleman, it was in the Amfest, there was a flag behind Erica Kirk when she's on stage, and it had, I think it was 6x6, 36, and even Baron Coleman, I think he must know something about, I mean, he knows stuff about the Bible, and he's Christian, so I'm sure he knows something about that, but he was like, I wouldn't have 6x6 if I was going to do less. If I was going to change the flag, I wouldn't have that. And I was like, maybe that's so I don't know. There's, it's definitely worth seeing more. And then there's the rings that I pretty much appeared, to my knowledge, after or around the time of Charlie Kirk's assassination. And they really are gaudy. I mean, she says it's the for her children. They're really, really tacky. I mean, God. So it's for some aesthetic. She's not going to do a very good job there. Yeah, so anyway, there's that. Then this is what we're going to try and kind of dive into now. This here, let's look at this. So there was and then there's Gary Melton's. Oh, was I sharing my? Oh, I wasn't sharing the right one. I was showing you Zoom. Sorry about that, people. Okay, so now let's go to Gary Melton. There, we gotta go back here. Okay. Sorry, people. I'll get better. Oops.
What Tyler Robinson was doing after he allegedly murdered Charlie Kirk. Well, that's great, but she's at least known since September 17th. A bit of information that she was given by a very trusted source, and she never shared it with anybody. Let's take a look at this clip.
I have a source, and everything the source has told me that has happened when we were lied to publicly has proven to be correct. So I am very inclined to believe this source on a couple of other things. And when I speak also to Lance's family, they are confirming what this source is telling me. And then we are told, as my source initially told me, that it was the mother who recognized Tyler and she phones him up. Tyler says, Mom, I'm sick. She doesn't believe it. She loops in Dad. Okay.
So right there, it's worth mentioning that her source back on September 17th, a very reliable source, confirmed that it was the mother that identified Tyler Robinson, and what ultimately led to Tyler Robinson turning himself in with the help of, the law enforcement neighbor. But the question is, what was Tyler doing between the time that he allegedly murdered Charlie Kirk and the time that he turned himself in? Well, let's take a look at this document and this tidbit of information that was provided to her by her trusted source that she never shared with anybody, that is quite frankly a bombshell. I want you to look right here in her own document. So there it is. Our source asserts that he went to buy a new gun. So Tyler Robinson, after he allegedly killed Charlie Kirk, in an effort to cover up his crimes, or at least hide it from his father, he went shopping for a replacement rifle. That's what he did. And that is a bombshell of information. And Candace Owens had that information from a reliable, trusted source, and she never shared it with you. She glanced over that bit of information, never shared it with her audience, not once in that episode. And why do you think that is? I think we all know the reason, and that is because with Candace, this has not been an investigation. It's been about pushing a narrative over the truth every single time. So there you go. Just another one added to the long list of lies that Candace Owens continues to spread, and the fact that she intentionally omits information so that she can push certain narratives, because it's always narrative over truth. Folks, you got to wake up. The evidence that she's lying is right there in front of your face. And she's not going to stop until people start calling her out. And you got to see what she's doing. She is destroying everything that Charlie Kirk stood for, everything that he built, his legacy, attacking his family. And this is much bigger than people realize. This is a political movement ultimately to stop and destroy the MAGA movement, Donald Trump himself. And there are a lot bigger players involved than you realize. So wake up to what's going on, pay attention, and we're going to be right here fighting the lies with the truth. We'll talk to you soon.
I mean, it's just like, okay, first, Gary Melton, I'm like, okay, buddy, you are obsessed with Candace Owens. But I think it's, I think it is partly personal. Just, in terms of, how shall I say, the different factions they're in. He's white male supremacist, and she was a conservative black, how shall ideologist, if you will. So there's already a divide between rhetoric and arms, so let's just say that they're in so many various separate camps on various themes that it's not even funny. So that is personal there. However, he is, obviously a spokesperson for the military industrial complex. He even, and, the deep state, their deep state, he even basically admits so, because he kind of says, yeah, I never wanted to do this in the first place. So obviously kind of somebody said, we need, some propagandists out there, go out there and do it. And, of course you don't come and say, yeah, no, he's got his military and he's got his guns and he's got his themes, but he's there with his how shall I say it, his audience, so that when things come up, then he can be there to inject the narrative of that, of the military and industrial complex agenda. So, yeah, he played his hand. But it's just funny how he's obsessed with her. And then there's this detail about Tyler Robinson going to buy another gun before he's caught by the police. Well, and Aunt Candace knew about this and she didn't put it in. Well, I've never heard that any place, and I don't think that that's something that has borne out to be true. So maybe there's a very good reason that she wouldn't put it in there. But see how he takes this thing that has like, okay, and where's the beef? What's the problem? Okay. And then all of a sudden, Candace Owens is a crazy enemy of the state. So that, I just think, is a good example of how you have these gaslighting people.